All right, well, we're doing something new up here in the lounge today. My good buddy Daniel's gone. I don't know if we'll load this on Be Real or on my other channel, but what we got going right now is, I guess it's three guys talk. We when Daniel's here, we'll do four guys talk.
Yeah.
If more come, it can be more guys talk. But right now it's three guys talking. I'm in the lounge with my good friend Daniel Hill and Brian Hylton, and we're missing Daniel Lewis today. He's off on some stuff for his work. But this is just going to be a bonus feature to the other stuff that we're doing. I mean, we get together and hang out. You know, you guys, Brian, wanted to get together and hang out. He brought it up and set it up. And so we've been getting together and having church together. So we were doing that today down in my little cabin. And I said, hey, man, I mean, why don't we just lay this down? Like, we were having a good conversation. And it's like, well, we don't want to lose all this. So now who knows? We've been spending a long time setting up. We might not have a conversation. But anyway, what's up with you guys, man? What are y'all feeling today? Either one of you.
I feel like the replacement Daniel today.
Yeah.
That's my name.
Daniel 2.
Daniel 2. 2.0.
Daniel 2.0.
Shorter hair.
Yeah.
A little younger.
Yeah.
Better looking. Best kids.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man. Well, dude, I just love having y'all up here and hanging out with you. I really do. And you're both cool brothers. And what's up with you, Brian?
Not a whole lot, man. Just enjoying this time. You know, it's been really good when we have been able to get together and just, you know, hang out and talk and,
yeah,
you know, learn from one another, which, you know, you can never know enough, I guess,
Right.
is how I feel. And the more I think I know, the more I realize I don't know.
Me too.
And I always feel like, man, I got so much more to learn, you know, like,
Mm-hmm.
and then you start wanting to, and then you start searching, you know.
Yeah.
And that's what leads you down a better path than the one you placed yourself on, or the one I placed myself on, anyway. You know?
I agree, man. Well, I mean, it's like we were talking from our last get together. We got together over at your house, and thanks for that dinner, by the way. That was an awesome
man. Glad
dinner
you liked it.
you made. And Daniel, you were saying just how excited you were, and afterwards talking and stuff about just what we were doing, hanging out with your wife. And I was doing the same thing, man. And I don't know, don't y'all think that when you do have this kind of real camaraderie, that it just, I don't know, man. It's like we were talking about with the church issue stuff. Like, I feel like this is the biblical thing. Like, we actually feel it. We want to talk about it. And then we get so excited, man, that we actually are really excited about this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's what we were all saying. We wanted to see more just people actually trying to do this stuff themselves and just living it out and, you know, asking the questions, you know.
That's what I'm thinking is the fact that like, I feel like there's a lot of questions that I need answered, and it's not something that I can, you can't turn on TV. You can't really look it up on the internet.
Right.
You got to read the Bible.
Yeah.
You know, and I have a lot of trouble reading when
Yeah.
I read the Bible. It's just, I don't know if it's, I got to read it a couple times to really get the answers that I'm looking for, you know, and so it's easier for me to come to people who's also wanting to learn, make themselves better, know God better.
Yeah.
And really just hang out and talk about it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's you don't get that. You don't get to sit and talk to your friends about God and the Bible. It just doesn't happen. I mean, and that's what's so great, because when me and Brian was talking about it at Floyd Fest,
Front Porch
Fest.
Yeah.
Should I say something about not sponsoring us or something? Okay, that's not how
It's just wide open.
Okay,
man.
just
you
make
just
sure.
do
Just
anything,
make sure the rules
talk
on the
about
radio
anything
here.
you want.
But no, we were talking about it, and I was like, you know, Brian was saying we could just get together, and I just got thinking about it. I got really excited. I said, you know, I get to talk to some people that actually want to talk about God, and I can learn things from, and you know, have some of my questions kind of not answered without me trying to look it up, but have me steered in the correct way. You know, hey, read this section or just check this out. And that right there, that's the best way that I've learned so far.
Well,
and that's why I like just hanging out, because it really takes you to the next step, to the next level that everybody needs to reach.
It does. And why have we left that out? I mean, I know nobody meant it to happen this way, but we've gotten so busy with doing the stuff that we forgot to be the stuff. And so now the stuff is left out. And it is neat, man. Like, I've learned a lot from the questions that you've been asking, and then just going deeper into the Word and trying to, just study and see what the Bible says about it and throw it out there. And I mean, I'm not perfect. I don't have all the answers, but I know the one who does.
Yeah.
And I know that we all know the one that does, and that's kind of what unites us.
And so I feel like I'm the one asking the questions that y'all were asking 5 years ago. Like, that's what I think. I think I'm like that. I'm y'all, but just a few years ago.
Yeah.
A little less knowledge, and I'm like, I'll help y'all out. I'll get those questions back in your head.
That's right. Well, and then I think a lot of times it's easy for us to forget the things that we have learned, even when you learn something, and even when God shows you something, because our lives are so filled with so much, and we're so reliant on our sight and what we see physically. A lot of times that causes us to very easily forget what should be stuck in our head is out the window in an instant. And to me, that's one of the things that's so important about actually picking up the Bible and actually reading it and asking God, show me what you mean here. Show me what you want me to learn from this. Because, it's like if you don't exercise a muscle, it gets weaker and weaker, and it loses strength until it just disappears.
Right.
And it's the same way in a lot of ways. And like, I feel like a lot of times we just kind of want to coast instead because it's easier. A lot of folks think, well, I've been saved, so it's cool and everything's done. I don't have to worry about it. I'll just try not to sin as much as I can. And that's all I got to do. And it's like, but that's not really going to, that doesn't really give you the peace that God can bring you in this life. When this life is so full of so much turmoil and so much evil and wickedness, like, there's still a peace there if you know Him and you stay close to Him. You don't have to feel worried like we talked about before. Like the disciples in the boat when they were all like, "How's he in there sleeping? We're about to die." Like, what's going on? What's wrong with Jesus? How can he be sleeping? And on the flip side, he's probably waking up thinking like, "Guys,
what's wrong with y'all? Y'all woke me up."
Yeah. Do you think I'd be asleep if we were about to die?
Well, have you guys ever felt like that, man? I mean, I have. I've felt a lot. Times when I'm crying out to Him like He must be sleeping or something. Like, where are you, Lord? I need your help. And like you're pointing out from the Bible, He's just like, hey, I've got it all taken care of. It's just showing your lack of faith instead of my lack of being there for you. I'm right here.
Yeah.
You could go to sleep through all this too and wake up and everything would be fine.
Yeah.
But it's hard, man. Sometimes.
It is. Our flesh is just so, and like I said, we're so in tune with our senses.
Yeah.
And what we see and what we consider to be common.
Right.
And that just takes our focus off of Him. Yeah. And that's when we lose our faith and we lose our trust. And also, again, not staying in the Word, not reading it, it's that much easier when something pops up to forget that He's promised, look, I feed the birds. They don't go out and work. I've clothed the grass and the flowers.
Yeah.
What are you worried about? Why are you worried about these things? You don't have to. But again, we're so used to this way of life and this being the norm, and we're more focused on our own ability than His.
Yeah.
And and like another instance in the boat where Peter actually walks on the water. When they see Jesus walking to them, they're all like, "Man, what is this?" And then like, "Oh, it's Jesus." And then like, so they're all focused on Jesus. And Peter actually was able to walk out onto the water until he took his eyes off of Jesus and looked down and realized, I'm walking on water.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, his brain clicked in. It's like, well, this can't be happening, And right then he lost that faith and that focus. And then he started to sink, and he's reaching out for Jesus, help me, and that's what we do, we're so much focused on what's around us and not what His Word has actually promised and what His Word teaches us. And when we're not in it daily, it is that much easier to sink in that water, and you're just going to drown in that water if you don't get in it.
Yeah.
And I always felt like it was like I was being punished for, when the God wouldn't answer the questions, and I'd be praying to him, and
Right.
the answers wouldn't come as fast as I wanted to, and then I would feel like, okay, I've done something worse. I'm not praying hard enough.
Right.
I'm not praying right.
It's because of me.
It's because I went out and sinned this weekend. It's because I did
Right.
this, and I'm being punished. And after a while, you keep saying that you just get mad at God, and you're
Yeah.
like, well, I'm trying better, but I'm still screwing up.
Right.
So I'm still being punished, and you just feel like you can't win. And that's not the way to look at it.
No.
Yeah.
But it took me a long time. I mean, I went through a long time of just kept, well, no, God's mad at me. No,
Yeah.
God's mad at me still.
Well, I think that's the way we were taught in some way that
Yeah.
I kind of felt the same way. And when I ran across that part in the Bible where he was getting ready to heal this guy that had these issues from birth, and all the Pharisees and everything were saying this happened because his parents sinned. His parents had to do something wrong for this to be happening. And Jesus said, no, this happened so that God would be glorified through what I'm getting ready to do. So I think that, there are consequences to our sin, but yet we can't be stuck in thinking just because our life isn't working that, well, it's because I've sinned and he's holding it against me. But Satan wants us to feel like that, man, because when you do, you're kind of, you do.
You just want to give up.
Yeah,
You just want to be
that's
like,
right.
okay, I'm done.
And that's why, and like you said, that's why Satan wants us to feel that. And he's the one he's actually the one who constantly reminds us of our sins.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I have felt, one of the questions that I had when I was younger. And, it was like a quest, if you will, that I had to know this answer. Like, why aren't prayers answered?
Right.
Like, Jesus prayed. When he prayed, it happened.
Right.
If he said it, it happened.
Right.
And then, so that was one of the things that I was really wanted an answer to.
Yeah.
And the more I read, the more I saw when people would come to him for healing, he would tell each and every one of them, according to your faith, that's how it's going to be done.
Right.
And the one guy, I think, he was like a centurion or something.
Yeah.
And he came and he was like, all you got to do is just say it, Jesus. Because Jesus was going to go to his house, and he was like, all you got to do is say it, and my servant will be healed.
Yeah.
And he was like, and it said Jesus was amazed.
Yeah.
He stopped and was like, I've not found anyone with this type of faith in all of Jerusalem.
Yeah.
That's how powerful it was, because this man believed it without a doubt.
Yeah.
And it's like that childlike heart that he talks about. We have to, if we want to inherit the kingdom of heaven, we have to come to him like those children.
Yeah.
And children have not been beaten up by the world, if you will.
Yeah.
So they haven't had all the disappointments and the letdowns. And their faith in things is pure. Whatever you tell your child, they're going to believe it. And there's not going to be any question in their mind about it,
Yeah.
And a lot of times I see it like how children believe in Santa Claus.
I was going to say the same thing, man.
It's like there's no doubt in their mind. When you tell them that Santa Claus brings them presents, they believe Santa Claus brings them the presents.
That's the exact analogy.
And they've yeah. No,
Right.
I'm sorry, Daniel, they don't. But
Right.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't have told you that. But,
Thanks,
like, they believe that. Until you finally show them that that's not the truth. They've never seen Santa Claus, but they believe it. And it's that faith that he talks about that we have to keep, regardless of what we've seen and witnessed and been through, is we have to keep that same type faith that no matter what the circumstance, God is going to work this out.
Well, he said, unless you change and become like little children,
Yes.
you'll never enter the kingdom of heaven.
Right.
And to me, that's exactly, man, what it is we've got, and that's what's cool about what we're doing here, because we have the childlikeness, man. We're just having fun.
Yeah.
And, I had looked into that story that you're talking about, and it's the only time in the whole Bible that the word, it's the Hebrew word is called thumadzo, for his amazement. It's funny that you brought that out, because I got really into that story at one time. And it's the only time that he was ever like astonished like that in the Bible, because that guy was a Roman. He wasn't even a Jew. He had no reason.
Yes.
He was basically living like a pagan life, and Jesus is like, this guy has more faith than all of you, chosen people, basically.
Yeah.
And he actually knows what faith is, and y'all don't.
Right. Yeah.
And the fact that, I've thought about that before. He could change anything in all of our lives
Right.
with one word.
Mm-hmm.
And when you believe that, it takes the pressure off of all the human stuff. Now, it doesn't mean he's going to do what we want all the time.
Right.
Sometimes it might not be his will, but really it is that childlike faith that do you believe that anything is possible with Jesus? If you don't, do you believe in God?
Right.
Because would God be God if something was impossible for him?
Right. Yeah.
So, I don't know. But don't y'all think that kind of the way that we act is that God isn't God?
Yes. All the time.
I mean, that we think, well, this thing that I'm dealing with, that's impossible for him.
Yeah.
Or he wouldn't change this, or he couldn't.
Yeah.
Or, I mean,
You don't have time to, or, you know, it's
too small for him.
Yeah. He's got bigger things to worry about, and we put all these extra things and just degrade his greatness through that.
We do.
You know, and it's like, you know, all those people that I kept going back and looking at, he was like, because of their faith. And then when the disciples would try to cast out a demon in someone and they couldn't, they was like, Jesus, why couldn't we do it? He's like, because of your lack of faith.
Yeah.
It always went back to that. It always went back to their faith, and according to their faith, that's how it was done. And that's what he told every one of these people. And it's like, and when God like revealed this to me, it's like, here's your answer, you know.
Feel free to do whatever. Hey, man, we're just in the lounge.
That's
we're
right.
laid back. It might be good radio, man. Just talk to whoever's calling and just put them on here, you know. I mean,
It's the balls.
whatever you want to do,
Hey, honey,
man.
I'm recording something right now.
You know.
We're recording something right now, so I can't talk.
I love it.
That's right.
It's great.
All right, love
It's
you.
good
Bye.
stuff.
See, I mean, it's fun even that we're doing this even more informal, like a time. It'll be cool whenever Daniel's here too. We got all
I look
four
forward
of
to
us
that.
with two Daniels, man. You know,
Yeah, that's right.
that'll be pretty interesting.
Daniel,
Two
what?
Daniels and the two B's.
I don't know, man. I think that,
Can you call it double D, double B? That don't sound right.
hey, man, we can call it anything you want, my man.
It's a good thing there's no call-in section where Dad could call in and be like, "No, it's not right. You can't do that."
Tell Daniel to be quiet.
We'll start doing the call in,
You're
man.
embarrassing me. That's what I always felt like. I was always embarrassing Dad growing up.
Yeah,
It's like he, you know, because everybody knows him in the community and stuff, and he's always been he's a good Christian man. I love him with all my heart. But it's funny because I sat there and think about it, and throughout all the dumb stuff that I've done, and growing up, I'm just sitting there thinking, how does he still love me?
right.
Mm-hmm.
But guess what? God still loves us too.
Yeah,
And I didn't even have to ask God for the forgiveness that I've had to ask Dad.
right.
And that was what I was thinking about, was when you was talking about, I hate asking for forgiveness on little dumb things that I've done, because I feel like they're so minute, and God don't have time for that. He don't have time to worry about that, and that, that I shouldn't be praying for stuff like that. I need to be praying for the big stuff, when really we need to pray for everything that goes on in our life.
Yeah.
And that's one thing we have to learn.
And what's on your heart? You know, that's like the
If it's
biggest
on your
key.
heart,
The
it's
biggest key of it
important.
all to me is like, if it's on your heart and you feel it, that's what you need to tell them about.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, don't y'all think it's like, I mean, y'all are both married, you both have children. I mean, I'm married. That relationship, it's like with your wife, what if we just talked about the big things and we didn't, like, to me, I don't know about y'all, but my least favorite thing to talk about with my wife is the big things. Like, I actually would rather, like, just be in with her on the little things and talking. Actually, I kind of know that we don't have, our relationship ain't jiving too good if we're not talking about the little things.
Yeah.
You know, if you get in these patches where, like, you're just living life and then you're still talking about the big family decisions or whatever.
Yeah.
But you don't have that little connection about, hey, what are, drinking coffee or hanging out or whatever the little stuff is.
Y'all do that with your wives?
Yeah,
I mean, I like it when they just talk about the big things, because then when you're not talking about the little things, I can watch football when they're talking. Going
Right. Well,
Is that not how that works?
well, isn't that what we do with God? I mean,
we do.
Yeah.
And
The
that's
same
sad
way.
thing.
and I know you're a kidder.
And I know exactly that when you said that clicked in my head. I was like, wait a minute, that is so true, because if you're not talking little things with God, it's not. There's some tension. There's something
There
that's not
is.
flowing like
There's
it
a
should.
separation.
And that is exactly right. If I'm not talking to my wife about the baby taking a poop today and what it
Exactly.
looked like and how many pieces of corn's in it,
Nice.
and she, but if she's not telling me that, then I know there's something up.
Yes.
That's amazing. I didn't.
Well, that's what it's
clicking.
about. Me
Yeah.
too, dude. And when I see him painting that as the marriage, and when I think about when I have a good relationship with Tanya, what it looks like, and when I don't, and then I compare that with my walk with Jesus, it's very similar, man. And if I'm communing with him, I'm hanging out, and we feel that connection. I feel him, and then I can receive what he's trying to do. I almost got into that story. I'm not going to get into that. Receive it.
I gotta receive it.
But I'm not going to get into that. But you guys feel me on that, don't
Oh,
you?
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
that it's just, and it's hard sometimes, and especially when you are not right with yourself, sometimes it's hard to connect with them. But then you get more distant, the more distance that's between you. It's kind of like an oxymoron.
But it's true. I mean, and you just saying that, that's nice to see, and that's what I'm talking about. Us sitting here talking like this
Yeah.
because that clicked. It clicked in my brain. I was like, that makes so much sense. So why wouldn't I go to him with everything in my life?
He wants
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And he actually, like our wives, feels offended when we don't. Like, we're like, well, I didn't want to trouble you with that. And if I told my wife I didn't want to trouble you with that and I was hiding some from her,
Yeah,
rut-row.
exactly. You did something.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's hard, man. And that's, but to me, that's the whole issue. And that's what we're trying to do in our relationship together is when we're all connected individually, we get together and this is what happens. And like I said, we're not recording this trying to, go viral or get famous. If one person, you take them headphones off, man, forget this mess. You sold me the wrong
I
thing.
just come over to eat some food and
Yeah, and to hang
talk about
out.
God, and the next thing I know I'm not going viral.
Yeah, I mean,
Man,
but see, if one person actually sits down and gets something from this, I hope that one person hears it and that they start their own little recording session and then someone else does, and that people do this and because I never knew that Christians ever did this.
I didn't know that. I get something out of this every time we've done this.
Me too.
And that's that might help you want to do it again because I get something out of it.
Me
I mean,
too.
and
Yeah.
and
me
I,
too.
it's just a lot
Yeah.
that I think that I don't. There a lot that I don't know, but it's like I feel so much better after I get it just a little bit at a time.
Me too.
It makes me want to learn a little more.
Yeah.
And then then it goes over to your home life, your job life, and
It does.
you won't because you're sitting there thinking you continuously think more about God instead of continuously thinking what that person next to you is going to think or
That's right.
somebody else. You sit there and think, well, what does God think? And then I've actually done this at work in the last few weeks. Actually, it's been pretty nice. That, Christmas time you get a little more religious at Christmas time, and it's like so at work I'm like, all right, I'm not going to cuss these people out, which is well, it shouldn't be. I shouldn't be doing that, but I've actually got to work and I've been like, no, I don't. That's not helping anything, and that's not the way that I need to be perceived.
Right.
Nobody's going to think I'm a Christian if I'm sitting there, just cussing them down and
Right.
saying threatening things. And I was like, all right. So, and I've already noticed that, and that's just, a couple times hanging out with y'all, and
Me too.
just feeling that little bit more of love, a little bit more of thoughts of what does God want.
Yeah.
And just that right there, out of all, just us getting together a couple times, that I've already learned something. I've already got that little bit, and that's what's awesome.
Well, I have too, Daniel.
Yeah.
I mean, I've gotten a lot out of learning from you and the questions, and there was things we talked about last time that I was convicted about in the time since that it's just like, I'm like, this isn't producing fruit, just take it off. And there's been things in me, man, that's changed just over our conversation. And that's what's cool is it happens naturally.
Mm-hmm.
And it isn't like, because I've tried to get rid of stuff before and it just kind of stays on me,
Sticks
like
to you.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I was going to say something gross, but I won't. But it'll just stick to you like that gross thing will, and you can't get rid of it. But when you're actually following him, stuff just falls off. You want to back to the wife thing. It's like when you really love your wife, you want to do the things that are meaningful to her, not because you're trying to get her to say you're cool or I like this, but because you just love her and you just want to please her. And I mean, that's what we find with the Lord, man. And it's cool. I can't say enough good things about you guys and just us getting together. And who knows where this will go with the 4 guys talk. Like me and Daniel had talked about doing this with y'all. I said, hey man, we're getting together anyway. We might as well just capture it. And, you know, it might be a neat little bonus feature on there. And it's just, I like hanging out with you guys. And, you know, we might as well capture this stuff, you know, because let people be a fly on the wall, because one goofy thing that we may say, you know, may actually answer a question that someone, because, you know, you're a funny guy, man, Daniel.
I don't see it funny. I think I just ask such dumb questions. You're like, he can't be that dumb, really. Like, is he for real? Like, he's writing this stuff down like that for me.
But I mean, you have the courage in a funny way. You have a pretty unique style to where I think you'll ask some pretty hard material that probably other people wouldn't ask, you know, and then maybe we'll have to try and figure out, and there'll probably be some stuff you ask we don't know.
Well, but that's good, because then we
can
figure it out.
That's right.
And see, if anybody would admit, there ain't no preacher, no person, no teacher on the planet that's got all the answers.
Yep.
And that's one thing about this ministry is we don't claim to have all the answers, but we claim to be in a relationship with the one that does. And we can ask him, and he'll eventually give us what we're looking for, you know. But we don't have, you know, we're not hanging on to our theology. We're hanging on to the Bible. You know, not what we think about the Bible.
Yeah, and it's what I've always, you know, one of the things that I had to, I guess, needed a lot of work on was patience, you know.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times that's something that we also, as people, if we pray a prayer, we think if it wasn't answered that day, then he's not going to answer it.
Right.
When really, a lot of times, it's not the right time for that prayer to be answered.
That's a good point.
Or he's working on it already, things to proceed that you don't see that is actually going to answer that prayer down the road at the right time that he knows is the right time. But because we're so caught up on time in our life, everything has to be now. So we think if we prayed a prayer last night and I woke up this morning and my leg still hurts, he didn't answer the prayer. And again, that it's a lesson to us on patience of, you know, are you still going to trust me?
Yeah, and persist and continue and with your heart.
Even though it doesn't look like I'm there, do you still trust me?
Right.
Do you still trust that I'm taking care of this? Because I've already told you I'm going to take care of it for you. I've already promised you that. But do you still trust me?
Yeah.
And that's for me, that's been one of the hardest, you know, like lessons that he has taught me, you know, because it's one of those things when he's trying to teach you patience, you're going to have to learn patience. It's just, you know, and
I need to canola oil, that chair. Sorry, man, I didn't mean to. Canola oil seems to work better than any. I've tried WD-40 and stuff.
Yeah.
And man, that canola oil, you use that, it'll work.
Oh, nice.
But
I got some.
Yeah, it's time again. Sorry that's picking up, and sorry to interrupt you.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
I didn't know what he was talking about.
Right.
I didn't hear it at first until he said it.
I'm like locked into your eyes, listening to you. Like, this is really good stuff. And I hear canola oil, and I'm like,
that's what we do here.
That's right.
You'll be right in the middle of an epiphany and get canola oil.
I got canola oil out of that.
And then
there's a
can you restart that?
Can
you restart that? I got a canola oil.
And then I destroyed it.
You destroyed it.
But you were talking about patience. I mean, were you done on that?
Well, you know, it's just